The RTA Conversations continues today with our special guest, Warren Smith of Living Water Resorts. Warren is now the Executive Vice President of Living Water Resorts, a beautiful property just about 2 hours north of Toronto. He started his career 22 years ago in Vancouver Island and has a fun and caring style of management which creates great retention and joy within all of his staff. We'll be discussing today HOAs that are no longer involved in sales and some of the options and solutions that we can offer them. Let's welcome Warren Smith. Well, hello, Warren.
Hey, Gaetan, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for your time. We're going to discuss today the HOAs, resorts that are basically timeshare resorts that are no longer in sales. How do they compete, on their, not compete, but how do they depend on their HOA for the management of their properties when there's no sales operation in place?
Well, I think there's a few big challenges that they deal with, I think, and in particular, Gaetan, the number one threat I think they face is the attrition of their fees. So, first and foremost, I would say that they need to invest in really strong customer service. To make sure that their members are extremely happy, so they keep paying those dues on an annual basis. Because as they drop off, as everybody knows, you have to get the pool of funds from somewhere, so that causes things like maintenance fee increases and all sorts of things. And I think one of the other things too is the maintenance of the units. You have to make sure that your usage fee or your maintenance fees are strong enough to be able to refurb those on a regular basis. And again, with the attrition and dropping off members, and no sales coming in to reinvest into the new property, where does this money come from? And it's the big naughty word of special assessment that scares the hell out of everybody. But sometimes they have no other choice. So they have their own unique set of challenges for sure.
So basically what you're saying is, let's say if they have $10 million in receivable and maintenance fees, for example, and they only get 75 to 80% of their members paying the fees, they either have to do a special assessment or do the fees, because that money's got to come from somewhere. It's not going to come from the development company anymore because they're no longer involved. Is that basically?
Yeah, that's correct. They have to make up the difference from somewhere or run in a deficit, which unfortunately, you've seen a lot of these HOAs have to do, and we just become no longer viable at times, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, most of these HOAs, from what I've seen, are small independents, mostly, right? And
yes.
with the last couple of decades, and all the mergers that we've seen with the big brand like Hilton Grand Vacation, acquiring Diamond, and then Embark, and then the Marriott, obviously. How do small independents stay competitive and still give good value to their members that have a certain loyalty to them when trying to compete with these big, massive brands that are out there right now?
Well, I don't know that they necessarily need to compete with them. I think that the advantage they have is if they have a good relationship and continue to have so with their exchange company. I think the consolidation is actually a benefit because they're getting access with these exchange companies now to more inventory than maybe would have been accessible to them in the past with some of these new contracts and these consolidations. So I actually see that as an advantage for a smaller independent resort. They're not going to compete, of course, with 12 resorts, but they're going to be able to exchange into even more as that consolidation takes place. I think that's an advantage.
So that's one of the benefits obviously our industry can offer. But our industry as a whole, we're seeing a lot of new players, obviously, a lot of travel clubs coming in, a lot of management companies that are just strictly management. But currently, 2023, what does our industry offer? Like, say, for those people that are watching right now that are probably in that situation, they're HOAs and they're not maybe meeting the demand they do, and they're a little under stress. What can our industry currently offer them in assistance?
Well, I think you kind of mentioned a few of them there. I think there are things like resort management contracts that can be taken advantage of with different companies. Collection services is probably another one. When I say collection services, not just a general collection agent, collection agencies that are familiar with timeshare and know how to answer the specific questions that come along with that type of ownership. I think the other place that sometimes HOAs struggle with is the monetization of their empty inventory and their unused inventory. So it's pretty hard to just find a revenue manager for an independent resort that has 20 units. So having some kind of a partnership or an affiliation with somebody who can offer those types of services oftentimes helps offset the amount that they're short on those fees as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Sadly, in our industry, like any large industries, there's some, great players, there's also some bad players. And I think there's a certain amount of skepticism out there when you talk to the people that we've been approached by this, I've been approached by that, but they really don't know, is it to our benefit, is it not to our benefit? Because everybody usually has a pretty good pitch, and you see them sometimes even advertise on TV. But what are the ones that you really have to watch for when somebody approaches your operation, and let's say you're a small independent, and then you get approached by somebody that promises you the moon, but actually won't deliver nothing?
Well, I think track record matters, Gaetan. And I think if you're dealing with somebody or an organization that actually has experience in timeshare, I think that that's a good place to start. I've talked to a lot of different people on various HOAs that say, we get these people that come in and promise us a resort management contract, but they have no experience in timeshare. As we all know, it's a very specific type of business with its own unique sets of challenges. So I think track record matters when it comes to that. And I would also tack on, Gaetan, because you're asking me about challenges and all these types of things. I think the number one biggest threat right now to an HOA are these timeshare exit companies. Because they somehow get a hold of these lists, they target people, and they can really cannibalize somebody's owner list very, very quickly. Because the HOA then in turn, they're getting all these letters and legally I'm out, and how do they fight it, and where does all the money come from? They just can't afford to do that. That's the number one biggest threat, I think, to HOAs right now.
That's probably legislation that's got to be changed in time to prevent these, again, people that promise the moon that will get you out of your timeshare when, in essence, they have no control as far as the exits, because the people that actually own the contract is what they hold
Yes.
on. So there's this, but exiting is not always the best option. Sometimes they look at that because it doesn't work. So, and that's basically as the last bit, you can carry on that as much as you want to, got a little time here. But in your opinion, if you got to address to an independent, I meant to you, you've got the experience, 20 plus years in the business, you've certainly been successful to a high degree, is you look at somebody like this that's basically hungry and they're saying, Warren, what is my best option? We've got a small club. We're only collecting about 80% of the fees every year. We're having a drop off. Our resort is the maintenance is starting to get a little tired because we don't have the money to put into it. We have 3,000 members. They want to travel, but right now they're thinking maybe they should exit. They just dump this on your desk. In today's market, what's the best option for them to start as a first step, maybe a second step? What should they do?
I think they should look to make some partnerships and affiliations, that don't increase their costs substantially. Because I think that's the other thing. People come in and they make all sorts of promises, but it's going to cost X amount, and it just comes right off their usage fees right at the very hop. I think you want to make a partnership and affiliation with somebody who has some economy of scale. So that, as an example, you were just mentioning maintenance. One of the things that those HOAs face all the time is they're just one independent job at a time to somebody, right? As opposed to a large resort with a huge maintenance team that can just come in and they can actually get the project done or the renovations done in a more cost-reduced basis. So I think you want to deal with somebody that has these tools available to them, like a revenue manager, a maintenance department, some general timeshare knowledge of how to actually run a property and how to deal with some of the legal things that come up with inside an HOA. And I know that's different provincially, but it's still 6 of one, half a dozen of other. Yeah.
Well, typically a well-operating resort has a contingency fund for these unforeseen. But when a resort is only collecting 75 to 80% of maintenance fee, that contingency fund can drop to like -0 after a while. So it's financially, it's a big thing for them.
Well, and they don't have it. Oftentimes in resorts that are still selling, you see investment in refresh of amenities, and different types of things all around the resort. It's one of those things where it's really hard, right? I mean, you do not have any money to invest back into the property, really, to create any new amenities or any new experiences, which we know are kind of at the forefront right now, of what people are looking for. So you're kind of just running on this wheel, and spinning and spinning, just trying to service the people you have now and keep the resort afloat, as opposed to being able to actually offer anything really new. So I would go back to saying that I think partnerships and affiliations are going to be key to the success of the longevity of those projects and the sustainability of it.
Well, that's fantastic perspective, Warren. Thank you very, very much for this. And I'm sure as it's distributed, there are solutions out there for these HOAs. So on behalf of the Canadian Resort Association, I want to thank you for participating in this podcast. And for those properties out there that are in this situation, that are HOAs, that are trying to sustain, the Canadian Resort Association is there to help you out. We have the resources and we have the contacts. Matter of fact, our conference that we're having in Quebec City on August 20th, 29th of this year, we'll be addressing a lot of these issues, and we're there to help you out. So if you want to attend, you can check it out at the gnexcanada.com. It's gnexcanada.com for our conference. In the meantime, I thank you, Warren. Thank you for your time, and we will see you on the next view. Bye-bye.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.